Welcome to Owl Rewind. It's a new show from the Overwatch League where we take classic matches from 2018 and rebroadcast them with our own incredible, insightful commentary. We've assembled the brain trust here. It's the three most incredible minds you could possibly ask for, and then Taimou, who also played in the match that we're going on. So the classic match that we've picked this time for our inaugural episode is the Dallas Fuel taking on the NYXL from the Stage 4 semifinals. The first time that you guys ever made a stage playoff after what was, I'm not going to pull any punches, it was a disastrous.
It was
a disaster. But you must have been feeling great coming into this match and it be like such a momentous situation for your team to be in.
Yes, because we really thought that we had a really good chance of winning the whole stage after getting into the playoffs. We needed some luck from the other teams to get in there, and then we were so happy that we actually made it after such a bad early season. And I really hope that we could have won that match.
Yeah, well, there's a spoiler for you, anybody at home that didn't know how it went. Hex, you were actually calling the game.
I was.
But I mean, without giving too much away, because we are going to go into the entirety of the match,
yeah.
There was a pretty awesome game. It had its ups and downs.
Yeah, it was great. I was actually, low-key. You keep your biases on the low when you're casting, but I was definitely rooting for Dallas. Like, New York was already
You're just saying that because
No, it's actually true. One, I always root for the underdog. I rooted for Shanghai all year last year. But also, it's guys that I've been casting since, like, late 2015. You're playing, Harry Hook's playing. It was just nice to see those guys in it. And also, New York was already going to be in the grand finals anyway. I'm like, just throw Dallas a bone. Let's turn this around.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy as well. When we take a look at the opening lineups and kind of the players walking out, it was pretty ridiculous to take a look at the lineup then versus the lineup now and see how different it was, Johnny. I mean, you were involved with the last season, you're involved behind the scenes with this season. What strikes you when you look at these 6 players walking out for the Dallas Fuel? This is so different to 2019.
Yeah, it is. Well, you mentioned Mickey to begin with, but even then we have Seagull as well and Harry Hook in the back, and these are names you don't really see these days. So it's really Seagull Man as well, of course, the #1 Dallas Fuel supporter. So
horrifying.
This is a completely different lineup, and given that they were so strong in Stage 4, it's going to be really interesting to go back and look at how they performed against New York.
What can you tell me a bit about the team here, Taimou, and like what was going on? Because they were making changes. You guys were bringing in new coaches. You were moving players around, subbing people in and out as well.
Yeah, we were testing a lot of new stuff because we had so many players back then, and
it was so good.
The Seagull flying dance. But yeah, we tried so many things, and we kind of like used Stage 4 as a building block for Season 2.
Yeah.
And sadly, we had to let Seagull go, and we got some new faces again. So
I think Seagull's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing really fine. He's doing really fine.
Yeah. I love how everybody coming into this match from the Dallas Fuel is just enjoying being on stage. It was the first stage finals that the entirety of the team had made, and everyone looks so happy and ready to play.
Yeah, well,
it looks so fired up
as you mentioned, Season 1, of course, for Dallas Fuel was a bit of a disappointment. And so when you get going in Stage 4 and there's a completely new attitude and a new mood within the camp, it has to feel so good being on stage and for your first stage playoffs and going up against New York.
It does.
Like, what was the feeling in the camp?
It was crazy because we were so pumped to go in there and beat New York.
This New York team actually looks a little bit different too, and not just this initial lineup, but we're going to see some now Washington Justice players playing for New York. Giannis is in here, Ark is on this squad. Of course, he's not on this team anymore, so they've made a few changes, and I think we're going to see at least at some point some married man meta. And who's that? Who's that guy?
I actually don't know.
I have no idea.
I've only watched Overwatch this year, so I have no idea who Pine is. I heard, pray tell, at some point he was a good player.
Didn't you watch the All-Stars? Pine was in it.
We had an all-star game? I don't know. I just remember winning and then going home and be like,
Just to set a bit of the scene for what was coming in here as well, just looking back over where these two teams finished. So NYXL was 7-3 coming into this match, and they'd been 9-1 the past 3 stages. And there was this whole like sandbagging thing. There was Spider Pine, if you remember that, where Pine on Gibraltar just had kind of developed a reputation for doing these weird flanks like behind the entirety of the back of Gibraltar. They'd lost to both LA teams and Boston. You guys were coming in 6-4. You just squeaked in with a +5 over, I think it was Philly and who else was it? Houston as well. Yeah, you'd just beaten Pip to the post. Did you view yourselves as the underdogs coming into this game?
No, I think we felt that we were the kind of the winning team. Like this was our game to lose.
Really, that's quite surprising to hear, actually, because even though you sort of undermine New York Excelsior and you say, like, oh, they went 7-3 going into this stage playoffs, at the time, this was before they sort of quote-unquote choked in the season playoffs. And this was the New York Excelsior team that were so dominant in the stage playoffs. And so even though you say that, they were, messing around in game and they perhaps didn't go 9-1 in stage 4, this was, at the time, a very dominant New York Excelsior squad. So I think for a lot of us watching, New York Excelsior were supposed to pretty much sweep Dallas Fuel, in my mind anyway.
Well, I don't know about sweep, but I think I was expecting NYXL to be the favorites coming into the match. But I think Dallas really had... you guys seem to be playing different. I don't know about magic. It was called Brigitte. I don't know about magic. But yeah, you guys really were one of the forefront pioneers of how to play Brigitte or just integrating her into certain metas. And then you were playing a lot of Lucio, a lot more Reinhardt than other teams as well. It seemed like you had an inkling that the meta was going in that direction. And other teams weren't really doing that.
Yeah, we felt like Brigitte was so insanely strong, and because back in the day, we couldn't play Tracer at all, because Effect was not in the lineup, so we felt like Brigitte was the only counter to Tracer, and to stop New York to die, we had to play Brigitte. And we realized that it's not enough to play 2 healers, so we had to play 3, and Mickey was the one who well, played Brigitte.
Yeah.
And we did really well against New York.
Can you talk a bit about why Mickey was so good on the Brigitte compared to everyone else in stage 4?
It was because Mickey played it a lot in the BTR before she came out, and nobody else really played Brigitte, so Mickey was the de facto best Brigitte back then.
He put himself in Brig jail.
Yes, he did.
Well, I actually thought you guys had a really good chance coming into this set because we saw the map pool on screen briefly, but you guys had a better map record on the first 3 maps than NYXL did in stage 4. The last 2 they had not been beaten on just yet, but you guys were playing really well on the map pool here. And just to clarify, in 2019 we have a loser's pick map system, but in 2018 it was just that's the map pool. Those are the maps you're playing.
The dark days.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're saying double sniper. This couldn't possibly be the dark days.
You know what?
Beautiful.
You know what I think is so interesting, actually? This was the first ever time on Gibraltar in stage 4 where we had guys like Libero, who's currently on the Orisa. They wait in spawn on the defense to see what compositions the offense are running before choosing what they want to do.
Yeah,
and we'd never had that before.
Let's also try that halt hook, which we see constantly.
Oh no, he's literally in spawn.
Right, I know, but they try the halt hook immediately there to try to get it. Like, teams still do that.
Yeah. Well, we see Libero swapping to the Junkrat here, and as you say, Sideshow, it's just reading Dallas Fuel's strategy as well. I think that Dallas Fuel here, you're trying to take this blue box sort of area, and so Libero picks the Junkrat to sort of deny you guys going up there with all the Junkrat spam. So, as you said, Sideshow, it's a nice adaptation, and I sort of like what we see from New York.
Oh, no, sorry, Josh, you were right. Yeah, Libero does it again later on in a different hero as well. So I mistook that he's on the defense.
Yes, yeah, it's when on the defense. But, I mean, that doesn't happen now because goats, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but also the fact that Junkrat is heavily nerfed compared to this. Like, Junkrat's mine used to do the full damage no matter the radius of it.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard counter to anything trying to take control of the blue box.
Okay, I'm interested here because I know you're going to swap to Brigitte soon, but what made you go out with a double sniper composition? Did you have a feeling that you were just going to hit your shots, or?
We practiced double sniper a lot on this map, and it was kind of a 50-50. We either failed really badly and go full hell, or we just completely roll the first and second point, so it was kind of a gamble.
Yeah, so you're just giving it a try here.
Yes.
See what it works.
Oh, that's one thing. Scattershot was back. What do you guys think? Was Scattershot worse or is Storm Arrow worse?
Storm Arrow.
Yeah, I tend to agree. As much as I hated Scatter, Storm Arrow was a little brutal.
You think? I mean, I think it's more a bit of like the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
But I do like the way that the Scatter Arrow was a way of being able to deal with heroes like Brigitte. Because you just fire the Scatter Arrow behind the shield and maybe you get a pick or it do some crazy damage.
Speaking as a main tank player, I tend to disagree with you here because I would die in one shot of the Scatter Arrow.
Yeah, but that's the point. That's my point, is that, you know, maybe Scatter Arrow being nerfed made it less of a viable strategy against some of these tanky heroes, particularly Brigitte.
This fight gets super messy. You guys end up in server room, and then you get a couple kills, and then NYXL just decides to use all their tank ults on you anyway.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to New York Excelsior's great positioning as well, because Dallas Fuel here, they were playing double sniper composition, and they don't get picked at all. Libero is in a fantastic position on the Junkrat, great awareness as well. So this is sort of what New York Excelsior excels at, so to speak.
Terrible. Actually terrible. Terrible. Well, now Dallas, now you guys have made the changes though, right? And this was a composition that you ran quite a lot throughout the whole series, throughout quite a bit of Stage 4 as well, where you'd run a widowmaker, whether it be you or AKM, and Mickey on the brick.
Yeah, and immediately Dallas Fuel takes blue box control and pushes New York away. So
it was way easier taking blue with Brigitte here.
Yeah, but it's right there as Meko's going to try to come in and touch last second. But you know what? Stuns are pretty good. Meko can't get in there, and you guys are able to hold it.
This is buffed Brigitte as well.
Yes, it is. Basically, a Brigitte had a one shot back then, so you would just hit them once, right-click them, and shift them, and they would die instantly.
People that are new to the game are just recoiling at the term buffed Brigitte.
It is crazy, though, the whole idea of the fact that Brigitte was more powerful here, and yet we didn't see Brigitte be as prevalent in Stage 4 as we do throughout the whole of 2019. Presumably just because people hadn't figured out the best ways of making use of it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like teams were really stubborn from switching away from the Mercy Zen, and nobody tried to play Lucio because everybody thought that Lucio was completely useless. So, like, it's way different these days. That was a nice shot from AK.
It's, as Super would say, pretty clean, to be honest.
I think the stats for AKM on this offense, especially, he gets 8 final blows on 8 eliminations. He absolutely crushes. He dies 8 times overall, though. His defense coming up, just spoiler, is not as good. I mean, when you're playing Gibraltar, Taimou, on Widow, do you prefer the offense or the defense, and why or why not?
Well, in this meta, I remember defense being always favored for the Widow, because when you're playing a Widowmaker 1v1 matchup, it really never is a 1v1. You always rely on your tanks to give you scouting information where the enemy Widow is, and it's a really boring play style, but you kind of have to go with it. So I like defense. Well, I would say I like attack more, because then I would have to do my own space. I would have to, like...
AKM pops off, as you say that.
Pops off, yeah, really hard.
Yeah, he has a really good offense. His defense is lackluster on the other side. But yeah, he played really well here. Died a little often, but I mean, you guys kind of roll through. New York's just putting up a semblance of a defense.
And as you say, he dies a lot, of course.
Yeah.
Gets resurrected into the 2K, so...
That's not bad. Mercy, pretty good hero.
Yeah.
Although, actually, this was nerfed Mercy. This wasn't like the beginning of 20.
This was not Moth Mercy. No.
Yeah.
She still had Moth-like tendencies with Valkyrie, but it wasn't the double resurrection Mercy, no kills matter at all ever.
Although, later on, we'll be doing other episodes of Our Rewind, where I'm sure we will have some times where we'll go back
I'm
and
going
watch.
to take that episode off.
Go back and watch the incredible Moth Mercy.
Wow, AKM with another beautiful shot on the Pine.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of times where Dallas is winning these fights and Libero just does stuff like this. Even early on, the tires had such an enormous impact.
Yeah.
At this point as well, Hex, I think you're saying in the cast that they're just dedicating resources to AKM a lot to make sure that he can't take this high ground up at the top. I mean, they commit a primal on him here at some point. Yeah, here, Mano goes for the primal and just tries to pressure AKM out. After they've just used a Riptire to kill him as well. They're really committing a lot of resources to make sure that AKM can't get in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of other damage on the field for them, too. And then Pine just, starts finding it right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, our only real damage is Zenyatta alongside with the Widow. So if the Widow is out of the equation, there's no damage at all.
But it's also interesting with this composition you're running with the Brigitte as well, that despite you don't really have a lot of damage, you have so much card pressure because you're playing the Reinhardt and you're playing the Brigitte as well. So the pressure is almost on New York Excelsior to go for these plays. And as I say that, Pine from the back.
On the flank.
Yeah.
Always on the flank.
I remember the call, and I was like, no one expects Pine from behind, but you should. You really should. This is where he always plays. He's always in the dumbest angles possible.
Especially on Gibraltar, and that was... Actually, though, NYXL has really been struggling with Gibraltar at this point. It seemed like as soon as they got to point C, particularly on offense, they didn't really know how to break it. Well, they lost to both of the LA teams.
Do you remember Spider-Pine came in like the exact same map or match that Sandbagging came around? It's like there's no way they're taking this seriously and allowing this to happen.
Yeah. Which is... I mean, they've admitted it themselves that they weren't taking the games particularly seriously towards the end of Stage 4. But the playoff game, that one wasn't sandbagging.
I mean, you won
That wasn't sandbagging.
Or this one as well. Obviously, this is NYXL at their peak, just playing against Dallas. That's the classic Bash Shatter.
Yeah.
Right.
That's brutal for Mano. I mean, what can you do against that?
Well, you really couldn't do anything.
Cry.
Speaking as a main tank main, like you couldn't really do anything against the Bash Shatter. You sort of had to. You could have your diva sort of like boop away the Brigitte, or you could have someone walk in front of the Reinhardt to block the stun.
Yeah, I mean, with the composition that New York are running, I mean, when we had proper goats on the field occasionally, like in the goats duels when this meta was going on, you can have your brig counter bash the other brig. You can have your Zarya bubble the Rhine, but when Libero isn't right next to you, there's nothing you can do. Pretty good. Pretty good offense.
Yeah, back in the day when the meta was still evolving, kind of like we tried to have Seagull kind of a shift on the Brigitte, so he would eat the stun instead of putting into a Reinhardt. But like nowadays, it's just there's Zarya bubbles left and right, so you don't have to care about the Brigitte stage.
That's true. That's true. We've also got access to your lovely opinions here in the Twitch chat. So if you'd like to ask any questions to us or put up topics of discussion, we are able to sift through the idiocy and pick out a couple of good questions.
There's one main question that's going on.
Yeah.
Any tokens?
I hear Taimou's going to be personally giving them out at the end of this game. Yeah. For NYXL, I think this one, it's got to be a little bit difficult for them after they haven't been taking things too seriously to suddenly turn up the tempo. And also when they've been in every single stage finals, I don't know, like, how much motivation do you think they actually have coming into these games?
Well, I think this is the biggest reason why they tried very hard against us is because like we were ridiculed a lot during the season one.
Right.
If they lost to us, that would be a big hit to their ego.
That's sort of the Shanghai Dragon syndrome.
Kinda.
You know, because people prepared extra for Shanghai Dragons
That's right.
because they didn't want to be the first team to lose.
Are you comparing the Dallas Fuel to 2018 Dragons here, Jonathan?
Well, they weren't that far off in 2018 anyway.
Whoa. I mean, they weren't doing that well, but they certainly weren't at Shanghai Dragons level.
No, sure, but
That
when it comes
was,
to the stage playoffs, of course. I also do think that New York Excelsior, they relied a lot on their confidence going into these matchups as well. And so when you're sort of sandbagging or not playing as serious in the regular season stage, I do feel like when you get into the playoffs, you come in a bit uncertain because you haven't really pushed your limits as of late. And so I feel like if you start losing, or in this case where Dallas Fuel just completes Gibraltar, I feel like there's more pressure on New York as a whole to perform.
Here's the old Gibraltar halt hook to start in and try to get it. I don't think I've ever seen it achieved. In all of the time casting Overwatch in Gibraltar, I don't think I've ever seen an opening halt hook. But I guess you do it because it doesn't cost you anything.
I actually saw it work not too long ago, just a few weeks ago, but it was San Francisco Shock. So what they did is they just followed the diva who got hooked. And
Yes.
they ended up saving
Yeah,
her.
they got deliberately.
So-
Yeah, they do it deliberately.
They got hooked, but they didn't die.
Yeah,
they
it didn't matter.
they just pushed the spawn.
They just killed everybody.
Mickey goes down to scatter. Your theory crafting on scatter being a good Brigitte counter was
Yes.
correct.
Well, this was the meta at the time on Gibraltar, was that your defense had to be malleable. You had to be able to change your compositions around. And the strange thing about Dallas is because Seagull is really like your DPS player, and Mickey is your diva and Brigitte, you don't really have the flexibility to put Mickey on like a Hanzo or a Junkrat to be able to do what all of the other teams did and cycle things around. So you just get hard countered a little bit by the double snipers taking up angles.
This is beautiful from Mono,
In
by the way.
hindsight, I still think that Brigitte was super overpowered and still the must pick back then, but nobody else did it, and we kind of didn't know how to like unleash Brig's full potential. So that's why the double sniper is working really well against us.
Yes.
That's a great call, Johnny. Mano separating the supports is going to be a theme of the rest of this Gibraltar. There he just does like a sneak around and hits the Tesla cannon. Later on 3, I think twice on point 3, he ends up going in with Primal and just bashes around both supports constantly.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this before, Taimou, as well, that this is what New York Excelsior does so
Yeah.
well, is that they send Mono in, and then Jonak sort of capitalizes
Yeah,
on it.
this was like New York's whole playstyle, the whole first season, literally. Like their main tank player would always draw aggression in the backline and then have Jonak get all the pocketing and kill everybody. That was like their whole game plan. And until like I think we're gonna see it in the third map here. Like after the first 2 maps, I think we see somebody called in our team, I can't remember if it was me or Seagull, that just ignore the Winston, don't care about him, just push on Jonag, just focus on Jonag, and it's going to be way easier.
We did have some UI updates between this season and the next one is that Arrow got eaten, and you just kind of had to guess.
Yeah.
That's true. So I spotted a good question in the Twitch chat, actually, Taimou, which was, how was Dallas at this point deciding on splitting time between you and AKM? Because obviously AKM plays this map, and for anybody that can't quite remember how the rest of the maps went down, it was you that played the other three.
Yes.
So what was going on there inside of the team based on who was playing each map?
Yeah, it was usually like we tried to have me and AKM split, like we would still play the same role, but we would split time on different maps. Especially, I think I would play 2CP and then I would play hybrid maps, right?
Right.
And then AKM would get these maps, but usually like the player who played better, like if let's say AKM would pop off like completely these first two maps, he would play the rest of the match too.
Right, right.
I mean, was there a time where you would just take yourself out? Like, I know Widowmaker can be like that. It's like, I just don't have it right now. I just don't have it today.
Yes, I remember a time where I told my team to just swap me out from the lineup. I'm not hitting anything right now. I'm feeling really bad. I'm feeling really anxious. So I just let AKM do the job.
Well, you sort of had the same situation in the World Cup as well when you played for Finland, because you had Linkser on the bench as well. So you had a few substitutions where it would be you on the Widowmaker or it would be Linkser. So sort of similar here, but you wouldn't say that there's any big differences in play style between you or AKM?
I think me and AKM had a very distinct style back then, at least. Like I would do very risky stuff, and AKM would stay in the back and wait for the scouting call on the enemy Widow.
Just played a little safer.
Yeah,
That shot right there is like, there's 2 pixels.
Yeah, that's fine for you.
Was that just Pine? He's just like mechanically insane, or is there like something to it that makes his Widowmaker play so special?
I think he's just insanely a confident person that he can go for those shots. He feels like he can go for it. I don't think it's like anything supernatural. It just,
Supernatural. That's a good way of describing it.
This is the first time that it's Mano jumps in, tries to Primal Rage on the back line, and then they arrow in as well. But to that point, later in this series, Taimou, you go for some really bold shots. It's really fun to watch.
So would you say that there's...
It's usually the DPS mindset. It's usually like most of the time you just want to do your job. You want to do damage. You want to get eliminations, but sometimes you just get those feelings where you can go for those ridiculous shots and you feel like you're gonna win every single 1 versus 1. Like you can go for them. Like you're in their head at that point, and that's good. That's the best feeling as a DPS player.
Feeling like they have to commit all of their resources just to deal with it.
Yes.
How much of it is confidence then?
For me, like I've been playing this game for so long and being pro so long. I feel like for every single pro player, like everybody's so close mechanically, it's like your mentality is 90% of your like performance per day. So depending how confident you are, how well you're feeling in your life, like that's your game. Like,
so what you're saying is, if Bren had believed enough, he would have been able to take down Jester.
No, not Bren.
All he had to do was believe. Listen, if you're out there, Bren, Taimou's just saying you lack self-confidence.
Yes.
So I think we're not going to get the halftime here where you do like an intel here, but this is where Mano gets in the back line and knocks both the supports around. The most important thing about that halftime is that you mentioned how perfectly I called it. It's tragic that we're going to miss out on that.
Giving all the props, huh?
No, but look, Mano's in the back. He's got both of them, and then it's just everyone else is going down.
Yeah.
This is such a good position for the Widowmaker as well. It's just...
It's closeout time when you have a Widow up there.
Yeah.
It really is. It's nuts. It's, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people wishing that we'd have more Widowmaker back in the league.
Yeah, right here.
But
soon, my friend, soon.
We saw so much of it last season, you know. It kind of dominated the entire metagame of how the league shaped out in 2018. It must have been nice to be on, like, such a pivotal role. Or was it just responsibility?
It's both, but I like responsibility, so that it's
you do strike me as a very responsible person.
Hey, separate the professional and the personal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think at the moment, though, it still seems fairly good for Dallas. Like, they still had a couple of minutes on the clock, but at this point, if you're watching from the dugout, how are you feeling about Gibraltar?
I think I remember back then we thought that it's actually a advantage to go on the second half of the overtime as the attacker, because when you have a lower amount of time in the clock, so you're going to go to overtime really fast, and then the enemy spawns are going to be very long. So you can basically, if you win one fight, you will snowball the whole map.
Right.
So, and I thought that was a really good thing for us.
But it's not an advantage to be down a couple of minutes.
No, it's not.
To get to the overtime, generally speaking.
No, it's
I think most analysts would agree on that. Do you concur, Johnny?
Oh yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah. No matter how good of a Brigitte player you have, minutes are more important.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of this break, we have the overtime of Gibraltar. So we'll catch you then.
So now, well, New York are going to be the ones on the defense. They finished with more time on the clock. Dallas Fuel, we're going to have to see how far they can push this payload in 60 seconds.
They're just...
But look, Mickey this time, there's no messing around. He's going straight for the Brigitte again on the offense. We've seen this be very successful for Dallas in the past.
Yeah, this is what they run. Seagull will probably switch to Devo unless they want to try a new wrinkle, though. But they're doing exactly how you beat a Brigitte.
Wait.
Libero
no
on
way.
the sim. He's set up, but you know
No
why?
way.
You know why? It's because he's going back to spawn to wait to see what their comp is, then he's going to switch. I want to see it too, folks. But that's
There you go. We were robbed of the Symmetra.
Yeah.
Well, we were.
I love how Semler was like, oh no, wait, he's swapping.
He's an excitable person. But I mean, it's an interesting play if you're going to go back to spawn anyway. Maybe they overextend up there and they get caught in the car wash, right? I mean, that's
we could.
even the devs know that the car wash is from Gibraltar. It used to be the little underpass. The Symmetra used to be viable.
Yeah. It makes much more sense to call it underpass rather than a car wash.
I know, but
It
the
isn't
car wash.
really.
I mean, there is a car wash.
How many car washes have you been into where you go into a tunnel and come up the other side?
Several. So many.
I don't even slightly believe you. Not even slightly. But I agree. It's a cool little strat, and there was 0 damage done of Symmetra throughout the entirety of OWL 2018. So he clearly did nothing, but it was a cool little thing to add on.
He stalled. Then swapped to the Brigitte. So it's interesting, I find, here in the overtime that both of the teams are playing the Brigitte because they want that extra card presence during the overtime push. So it's all about the widowmakers now. It's all about Pine versus AKM.
And Pine is so aggressive. He's built up this infra site so much faster than AKM has as well. He's doing crazy damage on the approach.
I think Mickey goes down first here. They really did a good job of isolating Mickey throughout this. And Mickey was on the front line, they dived the back line. If he's on the back line, they pressure the tanks up front. They just really had a plan to deal with Brigitte.
And then Pine pops off towards the end as well.
See, we've got a big bomb.
Yeah. He tries to save it.
But then Pine just pops up on Harry. I think Harry was really close at killing Pine there, but then he just headshots in midair. So
I think actually they show a replay and he just assault rifles him.
Yeah.
Because he has to fly up. He's in a tough spot. If he stays on the ground, he's dead. If he goes up, he's dead.
Yeah,
Just-
I seem to remember they run a replay of it afterwards, and I found it quite amusing because looking by the kill feed, I was like, oh my god, that's some kind of sick headshot. And then he just goes like straight into his head. But it's a good hold by NYXL. I like the fact that they put so much pressure on Mickey. I think when he's running the Brig, I think a lot of Brig players were still testing out the limits of like how aggressive can I go, how can I use my abilities to keep myself alive as well as be able to apply pressure. And so it was a little easier to try and catch them out in some of these situations.
But also I feel like Dallas Fuel, they were a bit under pressure, so they felt forced to use a lot of those ultimates quite early. And so then when you see New York Excelsior come back, we have Pine popping off, but we also have them use the Transcendence, the Primal, and the Self-Destruct themselves.
That's a great shot.
Yeah,
I like that
that's
one
a lovely
too.
one.
And then here comes the kill on the Mercy.
I think he headshots Harry. Oh, never mind.
I mean, you're
Well, he
technically
did
correct.
headshot. Yes.
He did.
Technically
headshot.
correct.
Yeah. So that's a tough situation for Dallas Fuel to be in.
Yeah, but it's not really unprecedented to actually hold the first point, no matter how long it is. So, and they only have 2.5 minutes, so they basically only got 2 really good fights here against us. So we had a really good chance still winning this.
What do you think the most important things are for teams when they have to perform a full hold when the other enemy team's got time on the clock? Do you just think about it as we're gonna hold like we always would? Do you tend to hold further forwards? Do you have to mentally reset? What goes through your mind in those situations?
I mean, usually you should always be in the same state of mind where you don't fear losing, right? Like that's when you actually lose the game. So, like here we just think that we're gonna hold like normally, we're gonna keep high ground control, and then we're gonna get some control on the point when we actually need to. We just let them push as far as they want to, and then at the exact end when we try to build an ult and then win the fight off of it.
Yeah. Usually with the defense as well, you sort of have the ultimate advantage going into the first fight. And so I feel like if you're Dallas Fuel in this scenario, you're just sort of trying to build up that Valkyrie or build up the infra site, and then you can get going. And then it's all about snowballing with the defense. So there's not a lot of pressure to sort of get those crucial picks, I find. It's more about just building the ultimates and then going into a good rhythm.
Because I definitely feel like the attacker still has the pressure on them instead of the defense, no matter how close or how hard the hold is.
I think the most important thing here, I think, is just trying to shut down the double snipers as well. Just trying to make sure that Pine and Libero don't get angles, because it's pretty difficult to close them down when you don't have a Junkrat or a sniper of your own. NYXL are just taking a bunch of angles. They're using Jonak like a sniper, and then they've got Pine and Libero like snipers as well. They can cover 3 angles all around you. And they eventually just picked everybody off after finding that opening kill on AKM.
Yeah, no, I think it was OG. OG got
Yeah, I think they got AKM, and then you got the res on AKM, and then OG.
OG died too.
Well, we also talked about it earlier in the map as well, that sort of the double sniper sort of counters what Dallas Fuel were trying to do as well. So, you know, I think the Brigitte is the strongest for you guys to play at that point A, but New York Excelsior, they just picked the Hanzo.
Yeah.
They sort of quote-unquote easy win because they can take so many angles and they don't really have to compete for the blue box area as well.
So we're about to witness the emergence of Taimou. So run me through what's going in your head when you're about to come out here. You've seen how Gibraltar's gone down. Can you remember what your thoughts were about this match at this point?
Yeah, I felt like it's a really winnable game. The second map, I felt a bit bad because I think I was supposed to be in the first map, so I could warm up because Horizon was the best map for me back then. But I'm always a slow starter, so it takes me a while to get it going, you know.
Yeah.
But then I lost my train of thought.
But then Horizon.
And then Horizon.
Well,
yes.
we've got a card of AKM versus Pine on Gibraltar as well that we can take a look at here, which was how they performed on that opening map. So this is the person you're coming in to sub over from, and even though the first half offense went fairly well for AKM, Pine just ended up dominating overall.
I mean, look, I mentioned it before. In his first half offense, he had 8 final blows. So 3 for the rest of the entire map for AKM. He really struggled once they had to go to defense.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason why we struggled a lot in offense is because OG was a really new pickup back then, and his English was not that great, so our communication was a lot lacking from the front line.
Right.
So our back line also had to like kind of make their own calls, and like they didn't have that much information as other teams would have.
Right, yeah. And that's the kind of thing that just develops slowly over time.
Yes, it does. It's definitely a thing where you have to play together for a long, long time.
Okay, well, we're going to check out the rest of this match and Taimou's reemergence in just a sec. Hey, welcome back to our Rewind. We've got the next 3 maps coming up, starring who?
Me!
That's right. So let's take a look at Horizon Lunar Colony and see how this one opened and see who's the man coming in here? Who's coming in?
We are going to go into Lunar Colony now, and we might have a sub that could turn the tide here for Dallas Fuel. Taimou is coming into what seems to be his home map.
Taimou is very, very good on Horizon Lunar Colony, and he has better damage, he's got better accuracy, he knows the angles. This is his best Widow map by a decent margin. He's coming in. The only thing that worries me about this is that I know that Taimou sometimes needs a game to warm up, and because of the map pool and because of how it is, he's not going to get that game. Team captain for NYXL coming in, Save Biolby, and then also Animo coming in for Arc. Animo and Arc are like 2 and 3 in overall healing in the league. You're not missing out a whole lot when you sub in Animo. So that's what they want to run here on Horizon. I would like to see them run what a lot of teams dare not on Horizon, and it's the Pharah. they've got the most time played on Pharah on this map by
Well, we just saw in the Twitch chat, Fuel Aero saying,
Big boss himself.
Horizon. This, he said, quote, this slapping made us change our style. Which, there you go. Yeah, you were brought in as a Horizon specialist, right?
Yeah, I guess I was a kind of a 2 CP specialist where I was put in for these maps, and I was also, I don't know why, but I just performed really well on this map in general.
Do you, I mean, you say you don't know why, but is there something about the map geometry or just the way it plays out? Or?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it was just, we just played, I just played.
You just love the moon.
Yeah, I just love the moon.
I love the moon.
he's a lunatic at heart.
You're an unearthly player.
Yeah.
So obviously you're going up against the Orisa comp here, which is a bit different from Gibraltar. Did you have anything in mind going into this map? Is sort of a strategy where you would focus on any specific player or anything you wanted to accomplish against the Orisa comp on this map?
No, we definitely wanted to touch the point with the we wanted to touch the point with the Sombra, so the Diva would come to the point, and then we would push through when the Diva is not there to boot. And that was our game plan for now.
Oh yes. Almost goals.
Almost good.
Almost goals.
It was kind of a Sombra goats almost. But there's no
A widowmaker goats?
Widowmaker goats. Yeah, it's the baby base special.
Is that Wotes?
Wotes, yes.
I actually feel bad for you on this map time. I was watching this not too long ago, and Meko is just all over you this whole map. He's chasing you down like you owe him money.
I mean, it felt like that. Like every time Mono was playing Winston and Meko was in Diva, I never felt like I had any time to breathe. Like I was just completely getting crushed by them.
And I think I mentioned this too. That's why tires keep hitting, because you're back at spawn right now, and Meko's in front of you. Like he just won't let you get any angles.
So he's like in there. Guys, I guess I'm a bait.
It's really interesting to watch this actually and see that push where the 5 of you went to the point, and then the idea is that you'll have open sight lines.
Yeah.
But nobody was able to get picks on Mano and Libero because you don't have the Brigitte there to bash. So I'm thinking in my head how that compares to Goats maps that we see currently. If that was the 5 people involved in Goats, they would have just bashed and found a kill really early on there, I think. But because you're playing with the Diva, there isn't that same ability to just find a target and overwhelm them.
There's also a bit of hesitation going on, I feel like.
There was. I remember this was a lot of hesitation from our team in this map. We never felt confident going into the point. We never felt like, time was gonna pop off or anything like that. Here we actually get 2 picks. I feel like, Meko's gonna die too.
Unfortunately, there's a Riptire.
Yeah, there's a Riptile, which kind of destroys our whole plan.
Yeah. No, but that also ties in with sort of the mental aspect that you talked about earlier as well, where OG is new to the team and he sort of has to lead the front line. But you start hesitating because you're new in the team and you aren't really pushing and taking advantage of the picks you got. So I feel like the addition of OG and sort of the mental aspect that you talked about sort of plays into this map heavily, where you see them bust out the triple tank composition but can't really capitalize on the picks you get.
Yeah, I think this is a really big mental boom for us.
Do you prepare differently versus Taimou, or excuse me, versus Pine versus say Byobi? Because NYXL has this great DPS comp that they can run several different Widowmakers.
Yeah, I remember them having when Byobi was playing Widow. They of course they played Widow Byobi on it so they could play Tracer on sometimes, but Byobi's style would never ever do a risky play. That's his style. And Pine is a very erratic Widowmaker player, and he would just go into your face and try to melee win the 1v1 battle on melee. And Byobi would never ever give you an inch. And I think my gameplay went better when I actually got to play with Pine.
Yeah, this is, I'm sorry, but this is hard to watch. You see the desperation swap with 1 minute remaining. You're Seagull is oh, guess I'm going Genji.
Let's go dive, guys.
Yeah, I guess Genji saw some play in the 2018 season, but still, you sort of go up against Libero with a Riptire and 4 or 5 other ultimates of new Excelsior, and you're sort of hoping for something, but you don't have time to build ultimates yourself.
This is more of a desperation play where we try to find a pick on a support as fast as we can, but I don't think it works out. Look, Meko, he's just hunting for me.
No, he was on you all game. It didn't matter what hero you were on.
Is that a trade you don't like having in the team? Like, would you prefer?
No, I
Strike
think
Mech, or-
that's a good trade for us. But
Yeah.
since we're like, basically our communication is not that great, so getting into positions is way slower than what New York. Like New York adapts very fast compared to us.
Libero defending himself with his own tire there, making sure that he gets a trade. And this was a brutalization.
It was.
You got marmalized.
No, yeah, we did.
You got stomped. And that's, honestly, that would be fairly difficult to mentally recover from, I think. Except, spoiler alert, this goes the full distance. This goes to 5. So it's kind of crazy that coming into the half, you guys were looking so poor, and yet you turned it around. I guess we'll discuss that later when we actually get to the halftime, but it's got to be a bit of a burden at this point. Like, how do you dig yourself out here?
At this point, I think we just thought that we're gonna go to the next map. Just prepare mentally for the next map already. Just don't think about it. It's in the past already. Just go for the next map, and we're gonna beat them in Kings Row.
At what point do you or other professional teams do that, where you just focus on the next map, rather than, because every situation is winnable or drawable,
I think
in theory.
In theory, this is winnable, but I think this is like our team just needed to cool down a bit.
Yeah.
So this is what, like, of course we tried to win the map, but in our minds we're already thinking Kings Row.
It's also like you don't want to invest too much
Yes.
in this sort of defense, because you know, if you put a lot of effort and a lot of emotion into this defense and you perhaps get 3 minutes of the clock, you're going to feel a lot worse when you actually end up losing this map, rather than if you sort of try to get the snowball rolling, but you know, you lose after like 1 minute or so, you don't feel quite as bad.
Yeah, I feel like losing a close match is way worse than losing a complete stomp.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to spoil it for you, Taimou, but this ended up being a pretty close match.
It did.
We're reliving old trauma right now.
Yeah, we are. My
why we pulled you
OCDs.
Yeah. Well, speaking of trauma, if you're a Tracer main, look away momentarily, because Brigida is waiting for Sabiobi right here. See him, bottom left.
Yes, this was also.
This is where you call out the Tracer racer.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens. I think they get it on camera too.
And of course, this was when Brigida had more damage on her bash, so you could literally just one-shot a Tracer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Generally, you're going to see probably Libero just
We mapped Sabiobi's movements on
Bye.
the map too. We basically had. I think we looked at New York's WODs, like VODs on this map, and we mapped where Sabiobi likes to go most of the time, and then we positioned Mickey into that, like wherever Sabiobi is going to go, and then one-shot Sabiobi and kind of did tilt him too.
What are your thoughts when you're playing Widow against a Power Mercy?
I think I mostly want to punish the tanks first, so the Pharah can't come in for free. But here I'm kind of split from my team, so I can't do much. I got Jonag there, which is really good. Now they have to go for the rest, and they use all their shields, all their DM. So our team, but the bad thing is because we don't have a diva ourselves, so we have basically no frontline pressure at all. So everything's on me, me and Seagull kind of here.
No pressure, no pressure. But I do think it's an interesting topic you bring up, hexagrams, because Libero and Pharah is something we'll see throughout the series quite a lot. It almost felt like a set strategy against Mickey's Brigitte in that sort of way. So if you can avoid Taimou successfully here with the Pharah, you just deal so much damage.
But it shouldn't surprise anybody that they would run it even into Widowmakers, because I think I call it several times during this match. Like, they're just going to run Pharah no matter what, and if I can see it, I'm sure that coaches and players can see it.
I think Libero is very good at not giving me sightlines. Basically, he's trained to play against Widowmaker. I remember New York in season 1. They played, no matter what the enemy team played, they would still pick Pharah into double sniper, and they would just roll with it.
They're pretty good at being able to pressure out the snipers with their front line and just allow Libero all of the space that he needs to be able to get it.
Yes.
And that the hold wasn't too bad, but it all crumpled in one go, you know?
Yeah.
It was like, as soon as NYXL was set up in the position that they wanted to be set up into, they just collapsed onto you, and you got headshot by Jonah.
Yeah, it's like I was forced to go for a play, and if I missed that shot, we're gonna lose anyway. So that was kind of a beating.
But that's also what was so beautiful about this meta, I feel like, as well. It was so precise and everything. Like, if you were accurate and you hit your Widowmaker shots, like you pretty much won the fight. Everything was so specific in that regard. So, you know, New York Excelsior, they had one good push where everything lined up for them and they hit their shots. And that was the entire fight pretty much.
Now, Taimou, if I had to get you to guess what your stats look like against Sabiorbi's Widowmaker on that map, it's a horribly unfair comparison, but we're going to do it anyway.
I think I got 1 kill.
Not bad. Good guess. Good guess.
That was a good guess.
Was that 1 blow on Sabiorbi?
No, it wasn't Jonag.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, I only played Widow for like, I think a minute on the attack, and I got Mecha was in my face like this, and then on defense, like they just rolled on us.
Yes, yeah.
You did almost have the same amount of damage, so
yeah,
and maybe
I was just shooting the monkey.
I mean, the stats there don't even because the compositions are so wildly different and the styles of the teams are so different.
I'm just trying to be nice to our guests. I'm saying be comforting.
It doesn't really apply, right? You can't really. It's an apples and oranges comparison because he was given all of the space in the world and you had none, and so you just have to deal with it. So,
yeah, I mean, I feel back in the day, I was really frustrated about it. But these days, I've a YouTuber called Rocket Ninja. He said this thing where find a way, no matter what. That's my new motto. Like
very inspiring.
No matter how it is, play that Widowmaker and pop off. Well, find a way to pop off.
That's inspiring words. So keep them with you during this break. Welcome to our rewind. We've been watching Dallas Fuel take on the NYXL, and now, well, Dallas are 0-2 down at the halftime. At this point, way back in 2018, you would have been in the coach's dugout. You'd be getting I don't know, I actually have no idea what happens in the coach's dugout. Well, does Aero give you a speech? Do you get a back rub?
Yeah,
what do you do?
He gives us some nice back rubs, and then he would also tell us to breathe. we would do breathing exercises.
Was that the problem
Just
on
to calm you
Horizon?
down.
You all forgot to breathe?
Yeah, I think so.
There's no oxygen up there.
We had no oxygen in the space at all, so we just got stomped.
Yeah. What does go on in the halftime of a game where you're down 0-2 and you know that you have to reverse sweep? Do you feel like there's more pressure or less pressure because you have to win everything going forwards in order to win the series, but there's only one route forwards to be able to do that now, so
Yeah.
there's no choice.
Well, I think when you're 0-2 down, it's still a best of 5 for you. You still have to win 3 maps. It's no more, no less, but you just can't lose. So, so just win the next 3 maps and win the game.
Those first 2 maps are maps that I think everyone had you favored on, too, because the last half of the series is very NYXL favored.
Yes.
They'd not lost the 2 maps after this.
Yeah, they never lost King's Row in the
Right.
whole season.
Coming into Lijiang, how did you feel against NYXL? Like, in terms of the map, how did you feel personally about playing Lijiang?
I personally, like, I don't know why, but I just don't know how to play this map as Widowmaker. Like, it's like really obvious to you, but New York has such a distinct style where it was really hard for me to find shots. Like here, Sabiolbe is just hiding. He's never giving me really an angle.
He's got to hit those, though. So for NYXL, too, also just a roster change, they bring in Giannis here. So
Yes,
Mana,
Giannis-
who I think is one of the MVP candidates of the league perennially,
Yes.
is now on the bench.
Yes, I think Janus and Meko, Janus and Mono were definitely coached the same way. They had the exact same play style, and here you can see Libero and Meko and Janus, all 3 of them, kind of trying to put pressure on me just to find more, so they could move freely.
And Sabiolbe's got such a safe style.
He does.
He's really not taking these angles for more than a second just to see if he can find the shot and then instantly he's out.
You can clearly see how Meko especially gives him information where I'm looking currently. So he abuses that fact a lot. Like when Meko says I'm shooting into this area, then Sabiolbe goes into an angle and then takes a peek.
It's also a bit of the opposite, right? Where OG isn't perhaps calling out Sabiolbe as much, and so your team is a bit unaware of
Siegel did a really good job in this. I had a very good idea where Sabiolbe was most of the time, but since he didn't really give me anything, I kind of had to focus their tanks. And I think this is the point where we understand that all Janus is doing is trying to bait aggression from our tanks, and our backline. So we should just shoot Jonak at this point, yes.
As you can see on the screen, if you're watching at home, it was Taimou and Sabiolbe barely killed each other over the course of this match, over the course of this map, sorry. You really avoiding each other a lot in terms of trying to find those fights, or rather, Sabiolbe isn't really giving you those angles to take the Widow Wall.
Yeah, he tries to make me go for him, basically. He tries to force me to do bad decisions so his team can clean up.
Does that feel unrewarding, sort of focusing on the tanks a bit more rather than getting picks on the backline or the Widowmaker?
No, I can't. Like, my style has always been where I want to do the most damage. I don't really care about the kills that much.
Okay.
But, like, when a double sniper meta like this, well, this is like Widow and Pharah, but it's still the same principle basically applies, where you have to wait for you have to rely on your team a lot as a Widowmaker.
So New York in control here, running the Pharah Widow. And as you guys are approaching, what's the main stuff for you to be focusing on to be able to get in? You got to push back the Pharah, and
Yes,
then find out what Sabiolbe
Pharah
is.
has to be far away, so our tanks get space, and then when our tanks get space, I get space too.
Oh, this hurts.
This was bad.
Unfortunate. Unlucky.
Sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah, here you can definitely see what Siegel and OG are trying to focus they're trying to focus their backline a lot, and Unko is flanking too. So we're trying to stop them from even getting to the backline.
So I'm a bit curious about the Widowmaker pick here, actually, because we know that Widowmaker was the meta back then.
Right.
But do you feel like you could have perhaps swapped to another hero to have more impact with that sort of approach? Or
I mean, I think with the way Sabiolbe played, I probably could have played McCree, into it because I literally only shot the tanks, and Libero never showed himself, Sabielby never showed himself, so I was kind of forced to just do damage in the tanks. But since there's a small chance you have these small burst windows where you can actually get picks, like you just kind of have to. Your team just has to rely on you sometimes to hit those shots, and you have to play Widow. And also, playing Mech 3 into Widow, they could just change their style and just, like, their Widow could just go full open anywhere he wants, and I could not contest him.
This is a crazy shot to go for.
Yeah.
I love it. What, you say that your style is about getting the most damage out and stuff like that, but it really does seem sometimes that you go for just mental plays.
Yeah, of course I try to. Like, sometimes I feel like I can do it. I've done this shot a million times. I can do it one
Frag
more.
movie mentality.
Yeah.
Like, this would look so good in a highlight reel.
Well, you joke about
I mean,
it
but then again, it was a safe one to go for. Like, I'm not gonna die.
Yeah, you're not going to get pressured.
And also in 2016, we saw a lot of that from you as well in Apex, etc., where you would just go for crazy shots and hit them.
Old move.
Old move.
It happens later in this series. I say it's old move back to the bold move. And you're going for these crazy shots, but you've had the warm-ups to get in there, and you're actually hitting them.
Yeah, I think after figuring out what New York really wants to do, and we changed our style here, after acting as a bait in Lijiang, like, I think Kings Row and especially Dorado is where I really shine because I actually know how to play against New York.
Also, Pine comes in too, and you said you prefer playing
Yes,
against Pine. Because you're both just going for the dumbest possible shots.
Yes,
I mean that in the highest respect.
I really like playing as Pine because our style is it's very close. Like, Pine is even more mental than I am.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
he goes for some really ridiculous shots, but like, I like playing against that because then basically the one who loses gets really tilted. I like that a lot.
Jonak peeking that angle. He must know that you're there, and he still goes for a charged right click.
I don't think they saw me shoot any time. Like, that was my first shot of the round.
Okay, right. He didn't realize that you were holding that angle.
So again, Libero is on this Pharah. What is sort of your mindset here when they're playing this Pharah on Night Market?
I think we thought that we need to get outside control here, and then I get to play in the as far as I want to, and then I won't get pressured by the Pharah. The Winston doesn't really matter here. I just want to do pot shots on their backline here. I want to I have all the space in the world here, except I have to shoot Meko, and now there's a Janus behind.
And they've swapped over to double sniper as well, New York. So you could see as well when we saw that shot of Janus sneaking around the back. This was something that Wizard Hyung, who at the time was with New York and is now with...
Look at Janus, no, go away. Go away.
He's really utilizing vision well. Nobody knew that Janus was there behind, and then he really picks his timings well to be able to come in. Now, it doesn't work out for him, but you could see the idea that Janus was going to come in as both of the snipers come and pressure you, try like a 2v1, take you out.
That's a 400 HP brig.
Old rally.
No.
Old rally. That armor's not going anywhere. That's
Just
permanent.
stays on you forever. And it goes underneath the Zenyatta shield
Yep.
and stuff as well. That was disgusting. Can you imagine how good? Can you imagine how good Goats would have been in stage 4? Like, if people had actually figured it out, Goats would have been unreal.
Yes,
in
it
stage
would have
4.
been insane.
So I think you guys just shut them out the rest of this map because Night Market, when you get this advantage on the doors, you guys are just holding left and right. Like, Mickey's doing his best Hodor impression.
Yeah.
He's totally left side bashing anyone who comes in.
And you can't really get any angles as the Hanzo or the Widowmaker.
Yeah, especially in a double sniper meta, like the defending, like the one who wins the point first, like you have an insane advantage about on the other team, and especially when Sabielby doesn't really go for the risky peek.
Watch this terrible trance.
Hodor should have had a shield.
But look, he trances and they still can't get out. Like, you just lock them out the rest of it.
Janus is behind again. I'm like, can you shoot this monkey, please?
Primal Rage the point. But this is a situation where I feel like you were correct, where perhaps New York Excelsior should have swapped to the Brigitte themselves, because Brigitte is so powerful, but team...
Yeah, but nobody really knew how strong Brigitte really is. We just felt pressured to play because we didn't have effect in there, and we had to field both Mickey and Seagull, so we had to put Mickey on something, right? And Mickey was really good at Brig.
Yeah, it's kind of strange how that situation happens, because that reminds me of 2016 when you guys had picked up Mickey for the first time and he was like playing Diva, then you had Harry Hook switch over to Soldier. It seems like Dallas, or Envious as well, have a lot of situations where you guys end up playing weird comps, but it just fits your team so beautifully.
Yeah, I think the envy mentality used to be like we could just play whatever we want. We're gonna beat anybody anyway. But like I think also we also had the bad mentality where we didn't want to practice new things because we lost scrims with the new things.
Yeah, that's not the greatest mentality in the world, perhaps.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so we just took a look at your stats from Horizon Lunar Colony against Sebiobi. Here's how you compare on Lijiang Tower as well.
And it's so even. It's actually identical.
Dead even, yeah.
Literally the same, except, as you said, Taimou, you always play for the hero damage done,
Yeah.
and that's where you're wiping the floor with him.
Ah, the difference maker.
The difference maker.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think that a big thing here as well, though, is that you were useful in the sense that you were defining how they had to deal with you.
Yeah.
Whereas Sebiobi, it didn't really feel like your team was having to deal with Sebiobi.
Yeah, he was only looking at me basically. Like they were trying to kill me, and Sebiobi will not go for those risky picks, and then our tank line would be basically free to do whatever they wanted. And we tried to have Harry Hook kill me, keep me alive, and then focus on their backline with our tanks, and we win.
Does a map like that really fix the confidence issues that you might have been having coming out of the half? Does this reinvigorate the belief that the reverse sweep is happening?
Maybe a bit. Like it was still kind of a shaky map for us, especially for myself. I felt really shaky after that map. But
Really?
yeah, I didn't really play that well. But in the next map, we're definitely going to see some PogChamp plays.
Okay,
Whoa.
so get the PogChamps ready. That's what you need. Everybody in chat, don't spam them just yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Hold on to them.
Hold
You've
on.
only got a limited amount. But when we return, you best be getting them ready.
I feel like the ball's kind of in Dallas's hands right now.
Yeah,
They need to play bravely.
I don't know if you have to play super aggro, but I would say play something different. Play something that maybe New York is not ready for, too. They do have a monumental task ahead of them if they want to complete the reverse sweep, because New York's stage records, despite maybe weighing themselves down playing non-ideal compositions throughout this stage, 5-0 on Kings in Row. And if we have to go to Dorado, 5-0 on Dorado. They have not lost either of these maps in stage 4. So Dallas.
Here we go then. Welcome back to our rewind, by the way. And here's Kings Row. This is where the Pog champs come out, apparently. According to Taimou, legend says he hit some shots in this match.
I gotta say that caster set up really well.
Did
saying that, yeah, that they're 5-0 on Kings, 5-0 on Dorado.
I am a big fan of Sam.
Yeah.
Who's that guy that he cast with? Is it Matt?
I don't know. I barely even recognize that fresh face, optimistic young man.
You don't have your beard as well. It's like the most jarring thing of this entire match is the fact that you have no beard.
That's my twin brother. People don't know that.
you both need an apple box to start.
That's right. Well, he is my twin. Not like one of us can be tall.
That's true. That's true. That does make sense. Okay, so NYXL running this kind of bunker setup, but with the Widowmaker and the Junkrat, which a lot of teams would run throughout the whole of 2018, honestly, or sometimes even without the Orisa too. And this is a strange composition. If we were to see the Dallas Fuel's composition now this year, you'd think it would be very
It would be very different.
Yeah.
And also the fact you're not even trying to play dive to sort of beat this Orisa comp, you're just relying on the Widowmaker shots instead and poking away on this diva.
I think we scouted out how they hold this point, and we saw Jonak be alone a lot in the top left window, and we tried to solo killing with Seagull in there, and then take the point control right after, so then I would get more space on the left side because they have to hold the top left.
Yeah.
But I can't remember yet what's going to happen.
I think in the days previous games we saw Zenyatta's holding up there and getting punished by that diva too. So a lot of teams were running that where you just put a Zen alone up there.
Keep an eye out on OG here, by the way. Beautiful. Beautiful card.
Yep, loved it.
Love to see it.
I remember that won us the point. That was pretty cool.
It actually does, because like he's able to get out alive,
Yeah.
and then there's trades, and trades are always better for the offense.
These are the Pog champ, please.
Yes.
Promise. Go on, Twitch chat. Go on.
Oh, that's so good. That's fantastic.
And then we get Arc.
Oh, the cleanup, of course.
Clean up.
Yeah. Good for the stats.
Good frag, Taimou. Good frag.
Thank you. It's like eco frags.
Well, no, because Ark popped Valkyrie to try to stall at the point, and he didn't necessarily even have to get on there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of play that gets you sent to the Washington Justice.
Oh, boy!
Also, nice shot time. It is hard to hit a Valkyrie Mercy, but still.
Warm in here all of a sudden.
There are two players. There are two players on this NYXL team now in Washington.
That was a Pog champ joke.
Thank you, man.
There you go.
Pog.
So, what's your thought process around setting up with this composition when you are not going to be playing with your front line? You're not really going to be playing with your back line either because they're going to be trying to play as safe as possible. And then you also have to keep an eye out for Sabiobi. Like, are you just trying to put as much pressure on Jonak as you can so that he can't take ridiculous angles?
I think here I just try to find anybody I can, and I missed.
Oh. It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Yes, it does.
Are you putting yourself up there as the best of us?
Well, I've had my fair share of block shatters, you can't hit them all.
I thought you meant as Widowmaker. I thought you were giving yourself props for your own
Oh,
Widowmaker.
I would destroy Brennan Hook. I would destroy him in a way.
I remember I was flanking from the left here, and I just popped on Sabiobi. He did not have a good time there.
That was a good flank. Maybe we'll get a replay of that.
So many ults.
Yeah, I think we do get a replay. Because also, like, then the supports have to stay back in the corner because Taimou's still there.
Yeah.
And there we hear nice cleanup from our team here.
That's what I mean I love about this meta so much. Just Taimou goes on a flank, gets 2-3 picks here to just win the entire fight for Dallas Fuel. And there's some good shots as well. Like that headshot is just the flick, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. Now, look, like the Mercy and Zen can't do anything here. They have to stay away. That's what I've always liked about Widow metas, not just because like the headshots or whatnot. I just think like Widow redefines the battlefields. Like I always call May the map editor, but having a Widow at a certain angle makes the other team have to play a different way. And watching how those things shake out is really interesting.
I mean, to be fair, you could say that about Goats as well. That
Yeah.
redefined the battlefield because it did quite redefine Overwatch.
And redefine something.
Yeah.
I'm just taking a look at that grab bomb combo from Mickey and Seagull. Like, well, Dallas has certainly got better at those over as you.
Oh, the OG snipe on the tire.
That is
crazy.
great. That is great. OG is such a mechanically gifted player.
He's insane.
The Ryan part.
I mean, he is though, right? Like on Ryan, on Winston, you saw his unbelievable pin to open up point A. I mean, that was a bit more luck, right? But
I would just describe him as a very confident Reinhardt, because a lot of those Reinhardt players, they wouldn't even go for that tire. Because they don't really, but when you have that sort of game sense where you feel like you can snipe it and you're confident in your own fire strikes or even your own charges, like OG is one of those tanks in the league. I feel like he uses his charge very aggressively, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't.
yeah,
You know?
well, that's what
I'd
I
say
think.
he's not a coward.
He's not a coward. But what I'm saying is essentially he has that confidence to sort of go for those rip tire snipes.
Well, I think we should probably ask our resident main tank expert, Taimou, who played a bunch of main tank for the Dallas Fuel earlier on.
Yes, my main tank was great.
It was. We'll have to get our rewind episode.
Sometime we'll get a rewind of my Winston plays.
Yeah.
Were you confident?
No.
How long was that for? I can't even remember
I
that.
think it was
Stage or something like that.
Oh,
maybe a few games.
yeah, it was only a couple sets.
So how did that come about? Can we talk about that?
No, we can't.
No? Okay.
It's a private classified information.
Classified. It'll get declassified in the year 2042.
Yes, yeah, we get when
heavily redacted still.
I finally write my book, I'm gonna.
It's gonna be a great.
What would the title of that book be?
Yeah.
I'm finished.
finish.
Oh, no. Get out.
That's a
Get
resident
out.
sleeper joke right there.
I
Oh,
liked it. I was a
Get
kid.
out.
that was awful.
I still laugh at it.
Yeah, back to the game then. Back to the game. Graviton Surge.
All right, grab bomb combo here should actually destroy NYXL though. I mean, what are they gonna do? If you manage to catch a couple of them in the grab, they've got nothing to be able to deal with.
Yeah, but you got Neko to worry about.
I think, like, we could have just solo grabbed Janus there and just killed him for free.
Oh.
It's not a solo per se, but
You saw back into the past?
yeah.
So that's pretty nice as well. You find the pick on Janice, pick on Neko as well.
gets save the old beast.
Very solid.
Very cool. Harry kills two. It's like Neptuno. There we go.
He's like Neptuno. He's been
It's like
watching
a-
all of
it's
those
like a-
Neptuno
yeah,
books.
he's been like, man, I want to frag you out too.
Well, 128 on the clock as you finish King's Row, and the reverse sweep potential is real
It is
from here
real
on.
at this
Yeah.
point, yeah.
And especially in New York Excelsior, which went undefeated on King's Row in stage 4, which our beautiful caster told us in the cast.
I don't know who that was, but that guy was smart.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the fact that he didn't have a beard. He was so clean.
That was back when I had brain cells too. It takes a lot of brain cells to grow a beard, apparently.
But yeah,
You've traded in your brain
Yup.
for a beard.
It was worth, totally worth.
what's really funny to also know is like every Widowmaker, me included, like nobody was really that good back then with Widow, but now we've had such a long time to actually practice Widow. Like the next time you see Widowmaker players, they're going to absolutely dominate.
Wait a second, wait a second.
Would you
So
say-
you're saying
Yeah.
last year, after practicing a bunch of Widowmaker all year long, you still don't think people are as good then as they are now when Widowmaker
I
players have
think-
just been playing Go?
No, like every single Widowmaker player that has not been playing Goats in ranked has been playing Widow.
Right.
And it's been a long time now, and everybody's like, you can see the scoped critical hit accuracies in these
Yeah.
maps. They're like 14 to 25% on average. And then nowadays, it's going to be very weird to see a Widowmaker player get under 30%.
I've seen very little Widow, but I recall like they're hitting like 33 to 40%.
Corey?
Any Widow player is going to hit, like the average is going to be around 30 to 35.
Well, I
It's
think
gonna
So
be
is it just a mechanical skill then?
Yes, I think just the fact that people have just gotten better at the game, like people
So-
have been practicing so much.
In 2022, we'll see 50%.
Probably.
critical hit accuracy.
Well, it
Probably.
depends
I
what-
feel like Widow is such a scaling character with like skill. I wouldn't even be surprised that Widow would be nerfed at some point, like given how good players are now.
That's very interesting. I'm really much looking forward to the next.
I think it comes down a lot, though, to the compositions you're playing against as well. Like, you're not going to have crazy stats against certain compositions where Winston's pressuring you all the time.
Like I think the only composition where Widow really struggles against is dive, but since Brigitte is such a good character against dive, like you don't really need to hit that many shots against that. But
Dude, watch this bot play from Libero. He's getting like wrecked out by the Junkrat, and I think he goes in for more.
this is really hard to push with Farah too, because like their tanks are not trying
He
to.
just eats nades.
Oh.
He ate them and then he left, and then he's like, oh, there's still nades, and he walks into them.
He couldn't go into the open space because I'm looking.
Yes.
And then they tried to put Libero behind the arch in the main, like behind us basically, so he could take the window. But they just never could because Janus is already here. He's not there to support his team.
I want to
He's going to
dedicate
feed here as well, I believe.
Janus cam.
It's a very strange composition to try and attack this bunker comp with, because you don't... And also what I was thinking as well is, oh, why don't they run the Hanzo and then you've got double poke onto the Orisa shield, but this is old Hanzo with scatter arrow, so
yes,
you still don't even have that.
Yes, the poke was way, like the damage was way lower.
Yeah.
Janus just gets eaten by Mickey.
It's a play that gets put on the Washington Justice. Just saying. Just saying.
Oh, man. Okay, Libero is not having a good time.
This New York Excelsior, though, they feel very like scattered.
Well,
they don't really
because-
feel like they're playing on the same page.
Okay, but
there's a time where he misses though.
when I was watching this game as well, it made me think how much the skill level has increased overall in the Overwatch League. NYXL looked incredibly dominant, but teams like, I mean, the Shock had only just started coming up in stage 4. I think they managed to beat you guys, and they were like pretty close to being able to make it into the stage playoffs, something like that. They ended like 5-5. I'm not exactly sure, but and then there were a bunch of other teams that weren't doing very well at all. And NYXL only lost 6 matches over the course of the entire league, but the competition was so much worse. So I don't know.
I actually wouldn't even say that the competition like was that bad, because there were so many like small details in this meta specifically, like the Mercy damage boosting to gain ultimates, Mercy damage boosting like the Zenyatta right clicks and boosting the right Widowmaker, etc. Like there were so many things about this meta. There were small details. So it was hard for the viewer to spot out, like,
I don't know, man. I think just the macro movements around the map of a lot of the tanks and stuff don't look as clean as... Maybe it's just because we've had so long to perfect those.
And there's a lot less healing in this game, mind you. So the main tanks in this meta particularly are suffering because they don't have the Ana or the Moira.
You couldn't really play a carry style with Winston here because you wouldn't have an Ana pocketing you all the time.
No, you have to flank, pretty much. So like we give a lot of crap for Janus, but really he has to sort of flank because he has to avoid all of that damage. And he might not be executing it the best way, you know, he might not be New York Excelsior caliber, but at least he's trying, and that's sort of where I feel like someone like Luma also got inspiration from, where he started flanking a lot because he just couldn't play straight up versus the damage of the enemy team.
Yeah, that was definitely their playstyle. They never would heal their tanks. Like the Mercy Beam would never leave Jonah.
It's a sad life.
It is a sad life for her main tank.
Yeah.
Which is
non-boost meta.
It's actually amazing that guys like Mano and to a lesser extent, but Janus as well, were able to get a lot of work done playing within that system too. I think Mano was so intelligent with the way that he played on the NYXL last year.
Yeah, for sure. But also he was one of the more passive main tanks, dare I say it. Like he would go aggressive, but it would be like very careful aggression.
He'd go aggressive when he had Primal. But
yeah.
For the most part, he's just tickling.
But a lot of the other main tanks, I think, had problems sort of adapting to this sort of play style where they would like perhaps do a leap too far and they would end up dying. And I feel like Mano was one of those main tanks who really had it like figured out. He would only really extend when he had all his cooldowns or when he had Primal Rage. So he was a very careful player in that way.
Things just seem so much looser here though than we see in 2019. You can always see every ultimate, every ability is used with purpose in 2019. At least when you watch the top teams. And these are two of the better teams when we were getting close to the end of 2018. And yet, I mean, Meko just threw in his bomb for seemingly no particular reason, just to buy a bit of space for his snipers. You see Unko taking like risky angles, stuff like that.
And
it seems a bit looser.
Back in the day, there was definitely a mentality where, like, you would call a play and then you would just use your ultimate basically on it, and there was like let's say you would take like here, Janus just used ultimate kind of to try to scatter us, and it works out, and he just called it because he got Brig Bash basically.
Yeah.
But like these days, especially in Ghost, you can't just throw around ultimates. You're gonna lose that way. Your ultimate economy was way looser back then.
It's also a bit of different mentality and mindset in Goats versus the Widowmaker meta, where in Goats, abilities and ultimates are everything. Where here, you can pop off as a Widowmaker, or you can just use your ultimates a bit more for positioning and controlling zones, etc.
It feels like a much more playmaker meta.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, you're trying to set up your snipers to get the work done.
Excelsior will be, again, it would not peak without walls. And it felt so bad.
It's that big brain, man. Big brain. The low
He
risk.
played it correctly. It's the correct way to play Widow, I think. And Mickey died somehow? And Seagull got scattered around. Feels great, man.
I think people sometimes forget just
Oh,
what a god
that was
Pro
pretty
is.
nice.
Yeah.
Like on everything.
He killed 3.
No, he gets
If
this
he
one
gets-
too.
gets he
Yeah,
full?
he gets her.
Oh, 4 kills.
10 HP left as well.
He doesn't even have leap, right?
Yeah.
So this is before the leap patch,
Yeah.
so he's got no mobility. You just got to stand and fire.
I was
arrows.
actually thinking, I was watching his POV a little bit earlier and I was like,
Oh,
why isn't he
moving.
leaping?
Yeah,
Why is he just
definitely.
stuck to the ground?
This is
What about that?
This is all the changes have been announced to Hanzo, and they, like you can
Yeah.
play them on PTR, but none of them had been implemented yet.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This was just before the one-shot Storm Arrow patch. Oh, man.
Are you a big fan of that patch?
No. Well, I like playing Hanzo.
Look at this. He's got another dragon.
What's your favorite ever patch time?
Favorite ever patch?
Or meta? I suppose it might be easier to think about
I
it in
think,
terms
I
of
think my favorite meta was when Macri and Reaper were the thing. Like that was old school.
That was
stuff.
like 2016,
I
like
think
June.
I also like Macri Genji. That was very fun too.
Yeah, that was
also
fun too.
2016, like
That was
July.
that was World Cup 2016. Yeah.
My favorite
Yeah.
was
Okay,
2
so
Winstons,
October.
2
Yeah.
Lucios, 2 Tracers. I like that. That was my favorite meta.
Oh yeah, the 5-minute overtime
Yeah,
from Lee Jung.
30-minute control maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best of fives in King of the Hill.
Yeah.
They went on so long.
All right, so getting
I
down
gotta
in
give a
crunch
shout out
time
to
with Kings Row.
Beyblade meta as well, but go on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. When so what we've decided from this is everyone liked the meta where they were doing well. Strange.
Basically.
Strange. How did Seagull get that? Just perfect timing as they pushed?
Seagull was one of the first ones to actually practice Diva Bomb, so he had very good positioning, and then he was a really intelligent player.
Wait, the first one to practice
No,
Diva Bomb?
one of the first ones, I would say.
Well, in stage 4 of last year.
Yeah, but like I'm going to say, like not many Diva players knew how to bomb correctly. Like I'm
gonna be a bit skeptic on that one because Poco came into
Yeah,
this
but
season and
Johnny's hitting the doubt
destroyed.
button as hard as possible.
X. No, but one of the first ones.
One of
I think
the
Seagull.
1%.
What I enjoyed
1%.
when I would talk to Seagull about picking up Diva was that he just had a very simple idea of what he wanted to do in each match. He'd have a vision for what he wanted to do and then go into it. Okay, so let's take a look at this. These are the team stats on Kings Row afterwards. Now, what's really interesting here is that NYXL led eliminations by 22, led final blows by 8, and yet still ended up losing the map, which
And
I
it
think
was,
is...
it wasn't even that close. Like
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
Ah.
they got full held on third point.
Yeah, full held. Yeah, they got held on third.
Held
point.
on third point, yeah.
And honestly, they nearly got full held as well.
Yeah,
There
they-
was only a couple of seconds left, and point B went into overtime as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just a clutch one, and pretty nice.
A clutch one.
Clutch one.
A clutch loss from NYXL.
Clutch loss.
Yeah. They managed to scrape a mediocre defeat from the jaws of utter defeat.
Yes.
How did you feel coming into this then?
Well,
so
they-
you've beaten them on Lijiang, you've crushed them on Kings Row. First time they've ever lost on Kings Row. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go?
We're really fired up to win in this match. Like this was our match to win right now. Like
Yeah.
this, like to lose. Like both. It was the both. Like we definitely should have won Dorado though.
Well, that's unfortunate because they didn't win Dorado. But we're gonna see.
spoiler!
We're gonna see how it went down, and we're gonna mop Taimou's tears away as we return after this break. Hey, welcome back to Owl Rewind.
Hey,
Hey,
We're here giving you incredibly insightful analysis over a classic game, NYXL versus Dallas, Stage 4, semifinals. At the moment, we're heading into the 5th map.
It's
Everything's
2-2.
on the line.
Everything's on the line.
Predictions?
I think we're gonna win.
I do too. I'm on board.
Okay. You might be slightly disappointed coming into
The
Dorado.
momentum is definitely on us.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you must have been confident coming into the
Of course, yeah. This was like our map to win. Like we had to win this map. There was no way we could lose. Basically, that was our mentality.
Yeah.
do you feel like that put a lot of pressure on you to just perform? Or was it like,
I don't think-
let's
I
say
don't think
you
so.
lost 2 minutes to start the map. Like, would you start to crumble? Or was it like, there's no way we can lose this? Or
I
What was
can't
my
really
thought?
remember how it exactly was, but that like the mentality I described, that was definitely our mentality back then.
So Pine has come back in for the 5th.
oh, Taimou likes that.
map.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
You said earlier you enjoy playing against him. And if you take a look at the stat here as well, big Taimou carry. Taimou scored 14 of the Fuel's 33 final blows on Dorado and out-dueled Pine and Widowmaker 7-3.
Wow.
So prepare those Pog champs, get them ready,
Yeah.
because you're going to need buckets of them. Buckets of them.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good carry performance, though. Would you say this is one of your best maps? Like,
I remember the Rogue versus Envy days where
oh yes.
yeah, you remember that too?
Oh yes, of course, of course.
It definitely was one of my best maps.
I remember the Taimou Roadhog. That was one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Someday we'll get Roadhog again.
That map Hollywood that you had that crushing performance?
And Nepal as well.
Or it comes Pine.
Pine was hiding.
And also, look at this. They're going to resurrect Taimou here, but look at Pine. Is going to do a grappling shot over the rooftops.
Yeah, it gets him.
And it's just beautiful. There he is.
Yeah, couldn't do anything.
That's gotta feel so bad. Like you
Incredible.
get domed, you get brought back up.
I just died, got rest again. Like why? Why do you do this to me? Let me spawn.
What are you looking to do here as the Widowmaker? Because obviously you're playing with Mickey on the Roadhog and you have Seagull on the Pharah, so a lot of spam going on, a lot of poke. What do you as the Widowmaker want to achieve versus?
I definitely want to flank here, like after the initial poking shield, and maybe we get a pick with the Roadhog, but if we can't, like I'm there to try to get a pick from the side. I try to focus Pine here.
Just putting pressure on the...
There you go.
There you go.
I think they yoink him into that, right?
Yeah,
That's a pog champ.
We yanked him out of the window, and then
It seems actually really difficult for New York to be able to stand up to this because Dallas's composition has way more poke on the shield. It also has the whole hook combo.
I think it's a pretty much equal poke because they have a diva. Because like Roadhog really doesn't.
Yeah.
In a 2 versus like when there's a Roadhog, where it's just a diva, like the diva basically does the same amount of damage to the shield at least. And there I caught Pine on the rotation. I basically baited Seagull to go peek Pine, and then Pine has to move when he gets poked. Pine gets poked, and then I peek and get a pick.
What a read. That's beautiful.
That's not even his best read on this map. Watch his defense. There's this like beautiful film study read. Sorry to spoil it, but it's like opening next time. We'll talk about it again because I was so impressed by it because it's pretty much just like, it's how to get a kill just based on studying.
That was sick from Pine.
Yeah. Why weren't you holding more aggressive here? Holding like the chokes once New York Excelsior were coming out? Because you sort of let them come out and Pine, as a result, gets that shot onto Seagull.
I can't remember why, but I think it was just the communication not being there and not being able to get OG and Mickey into a position. But I think we also feared that, we kind of feared the dive too.
Yeah. Do you feel like in these kind of situations where it's map 5, comes down to this, you're playing way more emotionally or like...
I think people try to, or tend to at least try to play more carefully here. Yeah, that's pretty much.
This is funny, they just totally boxed you in. But hey, you got the mercy.
Yeah, I got Mercy.
Yeah.
That's
Totally
the most important thing.
Word.
And Zoda, both their tanks.
Both Widows were behind the enemy team. Enemy line. Oh, nice, Mickey.
Nice from Mickey, yeah.
Saved Harry there for a while.
He died in the end, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. I think you've bought enough time here to be able to maybe turn the fight. Depends on when there's
The
prime.
hook. Oh.
Have you not seen this match, Sideshow? They're not going to capture the point.
No. Dallas Fuel, they're going to be able to win. Listen, suspend your disbelief here for a moment.
The reverse sweep.
The reverse sweep is it's going to happen.
Like our comp is definitely at a disadvantage here, because like they have the high ground, they have the diving tanks. Like we basically rely on Widow again.
And this is one of the worst points in the game to get stuck onto with the offense, I feel
like. But now we actually go Monkey.
Yeah.
I think we keep the Roadhog because we think that the ult does something.
No, he's
it's not really swap. Okay, there we go.
But it's like New York Excelsior, they have a widowmaker who is Pine, they have the high ground control. And like, if you're Dallas Fuel in this situation, it's so hard to get any kind of positioning and to grab any kind of space. It's such a hard position to be in. It's sort of like the nightmare scenario.
You get helped out there by OG, just puts a bubble over you unless you shoot where Pine keeps grappling over this roof.
Yeah, and you've also got the Brigitte shield to hide behind as well if you want to take more aggressive angles.
It's a bit scattered here because Anko is on one side and then you have you, of course, on the other side, and like no one's really helping.
I don't know what we're really doing here. Like we should be taking high ground right now, especially with the Brigitte, but I think we're just.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
I mean, it's awesome for as a Winston thing.
Can you give us some insight into what the calling structure was like in this version of the Dallas Fuel? Like who were the big communicators?
I think Seagull did a big job about that. Anko and OG were still struggling a bit. Back then, they're really like calling now. OG is definitely a team leader these days.
Yeah.
But I think it was me, Seagull, and Harry who did a lot of calling. OG did sometimes when he felt confident with it.
Anko hadn't been in the team long at this point.
No, he wasn't. I think he's joined at the start of stage 4, right? Or stage 3?
Sometime in stage 3 as well. Yeah, because the mid-season signing period for 2018 was in between 2.
And this is so, like, going back to the game, this is so horrible as well. Like, Mono can just play his game where he can dive into the back line because he has so much high ground, he can just drop down whenever he feels like, and he doesn't even have to use his jump pack. It's just so many factors on this New York Excelsior team. It's so hard to play.
Like imagine back then if we realized how good Lucio is actually with the 3 supports, like how easy it would be to keep Anko alive. Because we thought that you need the Mercy to keep the Zen alive, but you can't do anything. Like the Monkey and the Diva, they just jump in. They can't do anything.
I was seeing a little bit of conversation around just theory crafting what would happen if Mercy returned to how it was at the beginning of 2018. What do you think would happen to the meta?
With the double resurrection.
Yeah, with double res.
That's the shot I was.
Oh.
That is a filthy shot from Pine.
Beautiful.
Yeah, let's talk about the game instead. Good segue.
Yeah, I don't want to think about double resurrection Mercy. Sorry, I refuse to do it.
You will
Time
allow
was
your
actually
brain
popping
cells.
off here. Time was doing a lot of work in this final push, but well, before that.
Libero flanked me. He jumped on top of me from the house.
A lot of this meta was about understanding where people were and making sure you could abuse them as they moved around the map as well, which I think NYXL was excellent at.
They were really good at gathering information and relaying it to their team for sure. Like I think that's why they were super dominant, especially in the early season. Like they just crushed communication compared to anybody else.
Yeah, they seemed so coordinated. But
Oh, they're a shot on arc. That felt so good, but we still lost this fight, I think.
So close.
Yeah,
it's crazy that you end up losing this actually in the end.
Yeah.
Mecco Remax. Like,
OG
a Diva Remax.
OG and Seagull get separated, and then Seagull gets picked up, and Mecco gets to like I remember missing Mecco's head when he remexed, and that's what because like sometimes when a Diva is close to an object or close to a wall and she remixes, her body gets pushed away instead of staying in the one place normally remix. So I remember tapping my head like, why would I miss that shot?
It's not your fault. It's the game.
It's the game. Yeah, blame the game. It's never my fault.
I could see everybody getting maybe a little heated or conversational or at least...
Yeah, like, why couldn't we do that?
Yeah. It seemed like towards the end, you guys were very... I don't know. What was the mentality towards the end there? Because it looked like there were multiple fights where you should have had an opportunity to win. So were you frustrated or just purely focused on the next fight?
Of course there's some frustration, but like instead of just talking about it during the game, you just like tell your team that let's go next. Like that's the solo queue mentality. Just go again.
Also, when you have Mickey in the team as well, it's just like there's so much positivity and energy going on in the room.
And Seagull is a very, very, very positive guy too.
Yeah.
So he just brings the joy into the team alongside with Mickey. So we were we were so PMA, like I couldn't even handle it.
Unbelievably PMA.
Unbelievably PMA.
Could not be tilted.
No.
Taimou never been tilted, not even once.
No, never. Have you watched my stream recently? I've never tilted.
Never tilted.
Never.
Well, the second half of this map is about to come up, and we'll see whether Taimou gets tilted there or whether he carries. It's all...
This is exhilarating. This is what these players live for. Game 5, crunch time, all out, nothing held back. Look at it, you even had the little half grin. Not the full grin, just a half grin. Mickey, he's focused right now.
Wry smile, a little smirk.
He's gonna be on the hog though. What is this? There you go, the man in question, caught on camera.
As if you've never been the star of security footage.
That I definitely don't know if I have X. I'd rather not know either. Let's leave that as a mystery.
All right.
That's a fun little joke there, Hexagram.
You know, I mean, I think we've all been, well, never mind. I can't legally speak on it.
Don't
This is what I was talking about. This is how you get a kill just by film study, right? I think this is where you open up and Pine tries to take this very low angle on you.
He doesn't know where I am.
Yeah, but like, you know this is the angle he wants to take.
Oh, he lacks the critical
Oh, beautiful.
information.
That's brilliant, man.
He
I love
doesn't
that.
know. He doesn't know.
Yeah, I remember this is when scouting like certain behaviors of like people, especially sniper players, like it mattered so much. Like you would gather so many free kills from those, and it played a critical part of like planning for. But now it's GOATs, so you just
That's what I think Sideshow was referencing before when we talk about the level of play of Widowmakers in 2018. I think we often think about the positioning and like the angles that the Widowmakers took themselves. So it wasn't purely about mechanical skill.
No, it was.
Back then,
It was
a lot
definitely
about positioning.
like. I could say I was really mechanically poor back then because I was in a bad mental state. So I still did kind of fine because I just tried to play really smart. But there I didn't really play smart.
No, that was not that smart.
You're saying about kind of gathering information from VODs and stuff like that. So whose responsibility was that within the team? Would you go out and do it, or was somebody in the
coaching staff definitely did the most of it, but it was also like really helpful for the players themselves to go and rewind and go through the VODs themselves. It was like extra work, but sometimes you gotta do it for the win, you know?
Yeah, for the win.
For the win, for the W.
It seemed like it was paying off, you know, in certain situations over the course of this. But NYXL fairly easily cracked your point A defense.
Yeah, I think our comp is not very good against Farah. Yeah, it's like I went for a risky peek on the Farah, but I didn't, like, Libero was actually on top of me. He was hiding on top of the house.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have my grapple like on me, so he would just drop on me and kill me. I couldn't do anything about it. It just outplayed me there really hard. And now we have a really good hold here for like 4 minutes.
Oh no, that's gonna make it a real close game as well, Taimou.
Yeah, it was a super close game.
Yeah.
It was. Came down to the last fight.
Yeah. And as we talked about earlier as well, like New York Excelsior at the time, they were so incredibly dominant, like the juggernaut of the league. So the fact you got this close, like everyone was out of their seats. And
Yeah.
It's a quality loss.
Quality loss.
No, I mean,
I can speak from experience. There's no quality loss, Hexagram.
I'm just trying to say, you know, for this year when not every team plays each other, it's kind of the term we've been using of like, this team lost a bunch, but they're two good teams. So
I mean, you definitely couldn't be mad at like our own performance. We could just be sad that we actually lost to the better team at that time. Like, sometimes you just feel like you lose to a worse team, right? And it feels horrible.
How do you think the kind of landscape has changed now that we don't play every team in every stage? Because you would have an opportunity to play against NYXL and see them play against every team in the league before coming into these stage finals, but you don't have that opportunity in 2019.
Yeah, well, I mean, you still see them playing other teams, right? So you still get that kind of the same kind of scouting information. You can still switch your style accordingly, but since like the meta is what it is, it's kind of like you just look at really small things.
Just to cut back into the gameplay there, that was huge by Seagull.
Yeah.
Seagull denies the res
Yeah.
onto Mano. Then he defense matrix, who was it, Unco, I think, that got hooked. And then he manages to find the kill on Libero.
they've been completely negating the hook. The first hook that came down to Mickey bashed him
Mickey
out
bashed.
of it.
Yeah.
And we always talked about, when referencing Seagull's career, that he would be an amazing off-tank player if he truly dedicated himself to it. And
Yeah.
I know he probably dislikes hearing that because he wants to play the Genji, wants to play
But
the
he was crazy good at D.Va. I think
Yeah.
he had like. He only played D.Va for like a month or two, but his stats were like the best in the league.
Yeah, he was leading in most offensive stats at this point.
Everyone always refers to him as an extremely intellectual and intelligent
Yeah.
player, and so like I think that works really well on D.Va. You have to be in the right spot at all times.
Whenever you
Cerebral.
say the
Yeah,
word
cerebral. There you go.
Cerebral.
Whenever you say the word intellectual, I just imagine someone stroking their chin, reading a book, and enjoying Rick and Morty or something.
That's not an intellectual.
Like a true Redditor. I'm an intellectual.
But you just don't appreciate it.
Exactly.
To be fair.
Yeah, my brain is too small.
I can relate.
So you're doing a decent job here of just
Yeah.
being able to hold New York out. Whenever they come towards these angles, you're putting good pressure on them. OG and Seagull doing big work. They're having to pay respect to you.
This is really good from us. Like this is really good from us. Like this is like the point. Like we knew that we held them here. Like they held us here and we held them here. And we've held this point a million times.
You're
And
like
this is
2
like
fights
the
away.
best place to fight.
2 fights away.
Where does it all go wrong?
I think just before. I think it's this fight here where Pine gets an insane pick and Unco, and then Harry Hook goes for a rest,
Yeah.
and I can't shoot. Or it was Jonak.
And this is a great primal
Yes.
from Mono as well. I'd like to see.
Okay, it was this way around.
Yeah, it's just they get both supports first, and it's tough.
Our stagger is really good here. Like they're not pushing the point, and then Mickey gets picked away, but that doesn't really matter right now. Just OG and Seagull needs to survive. It's kind of sad that OG dies, but now I come in. I think
See that kill on
Harry
the Seagull?
Hook gets a sick pick and Libero. I think I killed Pine here.
It's a great self-destruct from Seagull. He lands in pilot mode in the ledge, but Jonak kills him.
I just couldn't do any. Like the D.Va bomb. Like if they didn't have the D.Va bomb, we had a slight chance of holding that. But But since they had that diva bomb, it was just like, it was over.
Yeah.
As we said, though, that's still a great performance and a fantastic hold.
It was,
to
yeah.
the very last fight.
We definitely pushed them onto the brink. Like they definitely had to work for that win.
You say there's no such thing as like a loss that you're proud of, or you actually said earlier that close losses are the worst. What was the feeling once things had settled down a little and the disappointment was not there anymore? Was there a feeling of like, okay, we actually achieved something here. We're looking fairly good for next season.
I feel like we had a good feeling going. Like after this, like we had a really good like idea what we want to do. Like, look, my scope
those are great stats.
pretty good stats for that map.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna see. That's what you're gonna see now.
Okay.
In the future.
All right, all right. You're convinced that Widowmaker is just going to come back and be the ultimate killing machine?
Yes, Widowmaker will be crazy when she comes.
Next stage?
Next stage.
Next stage?
no, next stage is goats. But maybe stage 4. Maybe stage 4.
Okay, or maybe next year. Set the
Maybe
expectations a bit more.
Okay, don't be this negativity. I don't like this at all.
No, okay.
We may. If we've learned anything
you
today,
need to be more positive.
Okay, I am. I'm super positive. I'm incredibly positive. Never been tilted in my life. I've got Mickey and Siegel. They're always telling me.
You have to envision the future that you want to exist. So I want to see Happy versus Saya player happen. I want to see Taimou versus Pine again. Those are the games I want to see. So yeah, I agree. She'll be back next stage in full force, Widow meta.
Yeah. Absolutely. What's been your, kind of looking back on this game and seeing yourself perform and be out there with a totally different roster, can you speak a little bit about the transition from what we just saw there with that group of players to what's happened with the Dallas Fuel this season as well? Because that was the last time we saw Dallas in the whole of 2018.
Yeah.
Was that match. And then you went dark for a long time. And then when you resurfaced, it was quite a different team.
It is a different team now. Like, I'm not playing. I don't think I'm going to play, like, to be completely honest. We'll see. I don't know. I feel confident in the team. My team is doing really well. But I don't know if I'm going to play myself.
Well, if Widowmaker meta
Maybe.
returns, I would be very confident in that you will be back on the stage.
Yeah, sure. I definitely aim for that. Like, I'm really practicing Widow. I'm practicing every hit scan. I'm practicing Tracer. I'm trying to get back in there. It's like, I think it's kind of an eye-opening experience for me being on the bench for the first time ever on Willing.
Yeah.
You know, like since the inception of Envy, or even before IDDQD, like we always stuck together. We always played the same players, and we just had fun with it, right? But now, because I'm being benched, like I have to grow myself out. I have to like branch myself out and do different stuff to actually try to get a starting position.
That's actually a great mentality, though.
really
like,
is.
I want to give you praise for actually being so positive about it and looking forward instead, because without a doubt, the meta will change at some point.
At some point.
At some point,
At that point, it will be really good that you
We
expand
believe in
your
you,
hero
Blizzard.
pool and will pay Widowmaker instead.
It seems like you're branching out a little bit in terms of what you're doing for the team as well. You still seem like you're fairly active behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm every day. We go to do our work. Like, I watch every scrim.
The man who stares at goats.
Yeah, the man who stares at goats. I'm definitely that man right now. And then I've been getting a bit of playtime here. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
But then most of the, aside from that, I'm kind of just like playing ranked and streaming off work time.
Yeah.
You have been
Playing
streaming
games.
a lot as well.
Yeah,
so if people are looking for something to watch, they could.
Yeah,
tune in.
Yeah, what's that stream?
Twitch.tv/Taimou TV. You're welcome there.
There you
I
go.
will be streaming after this.
But you're only allowed to tune in when the Overwatch League is not live. So there you go. Hex, what's your big takeaway from the Owl Rewind that we've done here today?
I'm
looked
not
over
one
a
who
classic.
hates any particular meta, but I like when metas switch. I like when things change up.
Yes,
I mean,
I
this is like the scouting and preparation I had to do for that match was so much more interesting to me. Of like, this team likes to run this on first point, second point, third point, and the nuance of the game. I feel like when you have different compositions rather than goats, but. We'll see how it goes forward. Thank you. It's been so insightful for joining us here. But yeah, this was a blast. Let's do it again.
Johnny, did you enjoy being ripped out of the production closet?
That was quite entertaining, yeah, except when you threw me under the bus. That was pretty much the saddest of
When
all.
did I throw you under the bus?
Never.
This is one of the only times we've ever talked about the fact when you were one of the best players in the entire world and were like on top of everything.
There was a lot last season where you would give me crap for it and you would like, poke me about it. But closing thoughts on the match, talking about the good stuff. I did actually enjoy this match quite a lot. And given that this was the last match for Dallas Fuel in 2018, you didn't qualify for the season playoffs, so this was the very final game. I think that it was a very nice match to sort of end the story of Dallas Fuel in 2018 because it started out rough and you didn't have the greatest of times. But still, at the end of the day, you qualified for the Stage 4 playoffs and you brought it really close to one of the juggernauts in the league. So I think this was a great match to end last season.
Yeah, and a great match to begin the Our Rewind series as well, which continues on Friday. It continues on Friday, so if you want to tune in, you'll have Jake accompanied by Hex and Monty and Mr. X as well, and they'll be running over Houston versus London, which was a game that happened in Stage 2, which was incredible, actually. It was weird how much Houston had London's number.
Yeah, they bet like the first week every time.
The whole of last year. So that's Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Twitch, so you can tune in then, and you'll get a slightly different cast along with Hex, who's just too bored.
I'm just here all the time.
So we'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.